Have you ever stared at something so small, so insignificant, that you wondered if it could really change your world? What if I told you that one tiny seed, buried in the dirt, taught me the biggest lesson of my life? Stick with me, because this story might just make you hold on a little tighter when things get tough. Let me take you back to a time when my life felt like it was falling apart. It was a few years ago, in the middle of a rough winter. I was in my early 30s, living in a small apartment on the edge of town. My name's Alex, by the way, but back then, I didn't feel like much of anyone. I'd just lost my job at the factory where I'd worked for 10 years. One day, everything was fine, the hum of machines, the chatter with co-workers, and the next, the boss called us in and said the company was shutting down. No warning, no severance. Just like that, gone. Bills started piling up. The rent was due, the fridge was empty, and my savings? They vanished faster than I could blink. My wife, Sarah, was trying to hold it together, working extra shifts at the diner, but I could see the worry in her eyes every night. We'd argue about little things, like whose turn it was to do the dishes, but really, it was the fear talking. Fear of losing our home, fear of not making it. And me. I felt useless. I'd send out resumes every day, but the phone never rang. Rejection after rejection. Sorry, we're not hiring. Or worse, no response at all. One evening, as the sun was setting, I stepped outside to clear my head. Our backyard was nothing special, just a patch of overgrown grass and weeds. But there, in the corner, I spotted an old packet of seeds that Sarah had bought ages ago. Tomato seeds, I think. She loved gardening, but life got busy, and they'd been forgotten. The days turned into weeks. I'd check on it every morning, hoping for a sign. Nothing. The ground stayed flat, silent. And my own life. It got worse. Sarah and I had a big fight one night. She was exhausted from pulling double shifts, and I snapped at her over something stupid. "Why can't you just find a job?" she said, tears in her eyes. I stormed out, feeling like a failure. The world felt heavy, like a storm cloud hanging low. I applied for unemployment, but the paperwork was endless, and the checks were tiny. Friends stopped calling, they didn't know what to say. Loneliness crept in, the kind that makes you question everything. Was I ever going to bounce back? Or was this it, the end of the road? I started doubting that seed, too. Maybe it was dead. Maybe I'd planted it wrong. One rainy afternoon, I knelt down in the mud, staring at the spot. "Why aren't you growing?" I muttered. It was like talking to myself. The rain poured down, soaking me through, and I felt tears mixing with the drops on my face. Everything seemed hopeless. The job market was tough, our savings were gone, and now even this tiny thing wouldn't cooperate. I thought about digging it up, giving up. What was the point? But something stopped me. A quiet voice inside said, "Wait. Just hold on." So I did. I kept watering it, even when the ground cracked from the cold snaps that followed. Frost came early that year, biting at everything. I'd cover the spot with an old blanket at night, like a parent tucking in a child. Weeks dragged on. My struggles deepened. I took odd jobs, mowing lawns, delivering packages, just to scrape by. Sarah and I talked less, but we held hands more, trying to weather it together. Still, no sprout. No sign of life. Then, one crisp morning, as the sun peeked through the clouds, I went out like always. And there it was. A tiny green shoot, no bigger than my pinky finger, pushing up through the soil. It had broken free. I knelt down, heart pounding. How? After all that rain, frost, and neglect. It looked so fragile, yet so determined. I called Sarah out, and we stood there, staring in awe. "Look at that," she whispered. It held on. That was the turning point. The climax of it all, if you will. Seeing that shoot made something click inside me. If this little seed could survive buried in the dark, fighting against the odds, then maybe I could too. The intensity of that moment hit me hard. I felt a rush of emotion, relief, joy, and a fire I hadn't felt in months. I realized I'd been like that seed, buried under problems, in the dark, waiting for my breakthrough. But holding on, even when it hurt, even when giving up seemed easier, that's what made the difference. From there, things started to shift. I kept tending to the plant. It grew leaves, then a stem, strong and steady. I'd talk to it sometimes, silly as it sounds. "You're doing great, buddy. Keep pushing." And in my own life, I pushed harder too. I networked with old contacts, took a free online course to learn new skills. One day, the phone rang. A job offer, not my dream gig, but a start at a local warehouse. It paid the bills, and more importantly, it gave me hope. As spring warmed up, that seed turned into a full tomato plant. Blossoms appeared, then tiny green fruits that ripened into red beauties. Sarah and I picked the first one together, biting into it right there in the garden. Juice dripped down our chins, and we laughed like kids. Our arguments faded. We were a team again. The plant didn't just grow tomatoes, it grew us back together. Looking back, that one small seed taught me to hold on tight. Life's like that soil, sometimes cold, hard, and unforgiving. You plant your dreams, your efforts, and then, nothing. The struggles come, the frost of doubt, the rain of setbacks. You feel buried, forgotten. But underneath, roots are forming. Strength is building. And if you hold on, just a little longer, you'll break through. So, to you watching this, what's your seed? That dream you've buried? That challenge you're facing? Hold on tight. Water it with patience, protect it from the storms. The growth might be slow, invisible at first, but it's happening. And when it sprouts, oh, it'll be worth it. You'll look back and think, I almost gave up. But I didn't. That's the magic. That's the lesson. Remember, even the mightiest oak started as a tiny acorn that held on through the winter. You can too. If this story touched you, hit that like button, subscribe for more tales that inspire, and share in the comments, what's one thing you're holding on to right now? Let's encourage each other. Until next time, keep growing.